and welcome to the Moffitt Method Podcast, where we dive deep into the world of strength and conditioning and pushing the limits of athletic performance with your host, Joe Ryan. Each week, we'll explore the strategies, tactics, and innovations that make athletes stronger, coaches smarter, and the sports we love even more thrilling. Whether you're a coach, an athlete, or just a fan of the game, we've got something for you. We'll be talking to some of the brightest minds in the industry, sharing their insights and experiences, and uncovering the methods behind the madness of high-performance sports. So tune in, turn up the volume, and let's get ready to learn, grow, and be inspired. This is the Moffitt Method Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the show. Today we're sitting down with Coach Lance Lacoste. A native of Chalmette, Louisiana, Coach is an alum of both Northwestern State and Holy Cross High School in New Orleans. A two-sport college athlete and three-sport high school athlete, he knows what it takes to compete at the highest levels. With a degree in kinesiology, Lance has dedicated his life to training and developing athletes. He's an elite coach with years of experience, and his resume speaks for itself. He's trained over 20 NFL players and more than 100 college athletes, helping them achieve their dreams. His success isn't limited to professional sports, as he's also coached a high school team to a state championship and won multiple college conference championships. But beyond all the impressive stats and titles, Lance is a family man. He's been married to his wife, Jen, for 20 years, and he's a proud dance dad to his daughter, Evie. When he's not on the field or in the gym, you can find him cheering on his favorite teams, the Saints, the Pelicans, and the Cubs. Get ready to dive deep into the mind of a coaching powerhouse. Let's welcome Coach Lance Lacoste.
Coach, welcome into the Moffitt Method Podcast. It's great to have you.
Appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely, brother, man. It's been a while. I know we go a little bit ways back in the powerlifting world when you were at Holy Cross and y'all built up that powerhouse y'all had going.
Yeah, those some good memories. That was I came in knowing nothing about the actual sport of powerlifting, and I left with a lot of knowledge and a ton of respect for the sport of powerlifting. Like, that is, honestly, since leaving Holy Cross, I missed that more than anything, was that powerlifting program. We loved it.
Man. It was some great times. We used to go to that Woodlawn meet that Steve Baranich hosted, and everybody would kind of be there, and you'd see those guys maybe once a year, and then at state, and it was just a real good time going through those battles, man. Y'all had some freaking warriors back then.
Yeah, started with nothing, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, man.
But I loved it, dude. It was, it took, what I loved the most about powerlifting was all it took was discipline and hard work. It wasn't about who had the best hands at a vertical jump. It was so much, there's obviously some guy gifted like ability that goes into powerlifting, but if you were willing to work hard and you were disciplined and dedicated to the sport, I've seen kids would shock us every year, and so.
Oh yeah, man. Awesome. You just never know.
Culture.
You get some of those kids are just bought into it. You got to love the weight room to be a part of that sport. It's not like baseball or football, anything like that. You go out there and find your niche at a position. This is, you truly have to love the weight room to do it.
Yep. Yeah, it was a perfect, off season from football in a lot of ways.
Yeah, man. So look, tell us a little bit about you, man. Tell us your story. We've heard your bio. We know kind of the basics of Coach Lacoste, but tell us the deep down, man. How did you get to this point? How did you, become a strength coach?
All right. So I would say I got two stories. I'm going to tell one for the sake of time, but two kind of pain points, I guess, that, drove me into wanting to do this. So the one I'm going to go with, when I was in high school, I was an all-state wide receiver. A lot of people don't know that about me at this point, but I was an all-state wide receiver my junior year. I had letters from all over the country. It was great. And so, of course, I went to these different, invite camps and everything. This was back when the camps weren't nearly as big. It was more of like, this was truly the time that these coaches got to see these guys up front, up close, I should say, before the whole social media huddle days, right? And so anyway, I go to the LSU camp. Was the first one I went to. That year I went to LSU, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, made my ways around. But the LSU camp was the first one I went to. On the way there, my dad had a blowout on the interstate, so I'll never forget that part. We had to fix a tire on the way to my first college camp. But we got it fixed, and so because of the blowout, we get there late. And so I go to run my 40-yard dash. The first thing I do is in the indoor facility. It's just me, the wide receiver coach, and his GA, I believe. And so we're going to run the 40. I never run the 40 before. I never even seen somebody run the 40 because it just wasn't this. Again, this is before Twitter and social media and stuff, right? And so, so I get on the line, and I get my wide receiver stance. I take off. I run. The GA times me, say, "Hey, man, that's a 4.5, but that doesn't count. Like, we can't count that." I'm like, "What?" And so so the coach is like, "Dude, you got to put your hand on the ground. Like, this is how you run a 40. Like, you got to put your hand on the ground, right?" So
Right.
I run another one, put my hand on the ground. Had no idea what I was doing. Ran a 4.6. I went to Arkansas. I did the same thing. When I got to Arkansas, I ran it with a few other guys. A couple of the other guys, I just remember watching them and could tell they really knew what they were doing and running a 40-yard dash. And it was long story short, it was an embarrassing moment for me. Right. And so that was one of those moments that really drove me to think I'm never going to let this happen to another athlete. I'm going to do whatever I can to help other athletes, certainly be prepared for that type of testing, and so that was a huge part of, like, I guess, my why I got into wanting to help athletes. I went to Northwestern State, enjoyed my time there. I just spoke with a group of Northwestern State students last week at school, and I told them, when I was sitting in those same desks you're sitting in, if you asked me what I wanted to do, I am literally doing exactly what I wanted to do when I was sitting in those desks. And so, and that's helping athletes, right? From a wide range of athletes, from 7-year-olds all the way up to adults and everything in between. And so, out of college, I trained for my pro day. I played at Northwestern State. I knew going into the NFL was going to be a long shot, but I approached my pro day training with the thought of I'm going to learn everything I can learn because I think this is what I want to do, later in life. And so, luckily, when I came back from Northwestern, my parents were living in Mandeville because we lost everything in Hurricane Katrina down in Chalmette. So we're living in Mandeville. I had a college teammate, Lee Geis, who played for the Colts. He told me, he said, "Hey, if you want a pro day train, you need to go to this place, Pack. It's run by Kurt Hester's. Yeah, it's run by Kurt Hester's people." I knew of Kurt Hester just because when I was at Northwestern, Joe Long was my strength coach, who was a Gail Hatch guy who knew Kurt. Gail Hatch was a Northwestern guy, so I kind of knew of Kurt Hester. Didn't quite know exactly what I was walking into, but go see Kurt Hester's guys. And so the phone number he gave me that day was Jason DeMello.
Okay.
And so if anybody doesn't know, Jason he is a big corporate guy for D1, but Jason trained me for my NFL Pro Day. I thought Jason was the best all around strength and conditioning, speed and agility pro day training coach I could have ever dreamed of walking into. And so I had a great time training with him. I had a great pro day. Obviously didn't make it to the league, but learned a ton along the way. And then I really kept Jason as a mentor over the years, and I just realized I'd met the right people at the right time, and so after that, when I, didn't make it to the league, I worked for Jason for $9 an hour for a few years, not a few years, sorry, a few months, not a few years. I worked for Jason for $9 an hour for a few months. That wasn't going to really work. Jobs like this didn't really exist at the time. So I was at Brother Martin for 2 years, coached football and baseball, taught economics and 7th grade math. I went to Holy Cross from there. Holy Cross gave me the first opportunity to run my own weight room. And so that, while Holy Cross did a lot for me over the course of my life, that's where I went to school. That was the greatest opportunity that Holy Cross gave me. Was they said, "These are the keys to the weight room. Every athlete that comes through here now goes through you," and I loved it there. I was a special teams coordinator, strength and conditioning coach, defensive back coach. Really never thought I would leave. I used to tell people, I want my name's going to be on this weight room one day. That's really what I thought,
man.
And then Jason got the opportunity with Oshner Performance Training. He brought me over there. So that was where, relationships are just super important, right? So Jason brought me over there. In 2021, Josh Hill was training. Josh Hill, former Saints player, he was training with us. He retired, started talking about opening up a D1. In 2023-ish, Jason left for D1. Josh ended up hiring me in 2024, and it all worked out, let's just say, right?
And so here you are, right?
Yep, here I am. So I guess that's the cliff notes. That's all I got here.
Yeah, man. And when you, being at Holy Cross and doing what you were doing with every athlete, you had to be one of the first guys in the New Orleans area doing that.
Yes. And so I got to know Nick Bratton a little bit because me and Nick were the only two strength coaches
around,
with certifications and stuff in the city of New Orleans. And so, so me and him would connect when he was at Newman, and now we're both in the private sectors. I mean, we got a friendly relationship. We're kind of competing a little bit, but we're very respectful. But it was me and Nick that, I'd say go way back to those high school days. It was just us, learning how to really navigate the high school strength and conditioning.
Yeah, man. There's a bunch of, I was talking with our girls soccer coach today about that. It's either an old machine or a well-oiled machine, one way or another day to day in the high school setting, man. You just never know what you're going to get. And,
Yeah.
Nick used to be I believe he was the, like state chairman for the National High School Strength Coaches
Yep.
Association for the state of Louisiana before Matt Bruce took over.
Yeah, and I was in that organization. I did some guest speaking with some of those events that he held with that, and so yeah, I mean those guys they certainly know what it's all about.
Yeah, man, it's some good stuff. So, when we talk about D1, you kind of spoke about how you got to D1, but, not everybody knows kind of what D1 is out there, how y'all specifically have in your specific D1 is kind of I think the forefront of it. But, working with the Manning Passing Academy every year and getting to know those different people from all different walks of life, does that tell us a little bit about that? And does that kind of help you kind of recharge the batteries, meeting these people from all over the country and kind of finding that passion again? Because in this profession, man, I don't want to call it burnout, but you kind of get like in those lulls where you're just like, man, it's the same thing.
Yeah, and so I think the event you're referring to, we do a coaches summit at the end of June every year, where part of it is down at the Royal Sonesta on Bourbon, where we do a bunch of like continuing education type stuff. We all then get on a bus, we go out to Nicholls State University, and we kick off the Manning Passing Academy. Like we put them through a warm up and then a full workout. Absolute chaos with thousands of kids on the field, and we make it work. It's pretty impressive how we make it all work. And so yeah, I think to your point, the really coolest thing so far about working for D1, and again, I've only been with D1 for a year and a half, but the coolest thing so far has been the opportunity to network. There's 152 D1s around the country, and so I've connected with so many general managers from around the country that we're bouncing ideas off of each other. What's working for you? Let me try that, all of that type of stuff. And it's the same for like my head coach under me. I'm able to connect him with different head coaches, and we're dealing with a lot of the same issues, whether you're here or you're in freaking Chicago, whatever,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that opportunity to just, build with others recharges the battery. I leave those conversations just feeling rejuvenated. Like, all right, maybe last week wasn't great, but let's try this. We're going to try this week, and it's working for them. So that's been a really cool part of it, just networking with people that are dealing with the same stuff, good or bad, from all over the country.
Yeah, man. I think the last time I saw you, actually, we were down there, not this past summer, but the summer before that.
That's right.
Crazy thing is, I'm sitting down there eating lunch in the Saints facility, and a college teammate of mine who runs one up in Little Rock, his name is Marshall Everett.
Okay. I know Marshall.
Yeah. So we played together. Well, I was a good bit older than him at Monticello when he was coming in, and I was kind of getting out, but I think we played a year together. But he runs the one up in Little Rock, and it was just like, man, small world. Like, I had no idea he was going to be down there.
Yeah, he does a great job. He is on the so Jason DeMello oversees like the national training panel. He's on the training panel, and he does a lot of the programming for like our classes and stuff.
Oh,
and so,
yeah, man. He
does a great job.
He always was a freaking warrior in the weight room, man. That dude can, I still see him, man, posting videos, and Marshall can still lift some weight, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, man. So, you get to D1, you get to do all this stuff, you get to network, you get to see everything, when you look back at your time of being a college athlete, you were a two-sport college athlete, baseball, football, right? Is there some type of lesson that you apply to your coaching now at D1 that you kind of learned to kind of balance both of those? And even in the strength and conditioning world, you kind of had to create your own off season at times.
Yeah. So when it comes to the irony of this typically is like, love the multi-sport athlete.
Right.
What's best for my business is probably the single sport athlete that has a full off season.
Yeah.
But I'll never support that. Right. And the main reason is like, no matter how many sports you play, if you're serious about seeking out extra help on the side from a speed and agility strength standpoint, like you can do it. And I did it, I played all three sports in high school: football, basketball, baseball. You know what I did year round? I lifted year round.
Yeah.
I lifted before school. I lifted after practice. I conditioned at Showman High on my own. Like I didn't know what I was doing most of the time, but I found ways to make sure I was doing the right things and taking care and having my body ready for every single season. And so, I think some of the stuff that I learned as being especially a college two-sport athlete is time management and prioritizing. And that's something that I do on a daily basis. I have a long to-do list every day, and it's all about making sure I hit the priorities from day to day. What can I do? What do I need to pass off? What can wait till tomorrow? And so prioritizing, I think, is definitely something. Prioritizing time management's a huge part of it. And I think the other thing that I just live this way is like, people people do not care if you're tired or anything like they care
Yeah.
about what you wake up and the impact that you make every single day. And when I'm going like to the point of like what I did as a college athlete, like I once played my greatest story, and some people think that's great. My favorite memory of college, I played in a baseball doubleheader against McNeese, played in both games. That evening, it was a Sunday. It was all because of a rain out. That evening, it was spring football at the time. I went and played in the football spring scrimmage that evening. So I played two baseball games and a football game in one day.
Freaking Deion
And
Sanders over here, man.
yeah, and the bottom line is, when I went to football, nobody cared that I played in two baseball
Right.
games. You know what I
You're
mean?
there
Like, it
to
was
play
my job to
football.
show up and play safety and make every single tackle. And
Yep.
that's something that I try to make sure my coaches kind of live that same way. Like, hey, there's gonna be days, especially during the summertime, where you coach 12 hours, but that 1 hour that you're with that kid is that kid's one workout.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't care if you work 12 hours. Like, that kid deserves your best. You know, and so I think just prioritizing, and every second that you're awake, you're doing your best and making an impact on those around you.
So you can talk about time management, man. How many kids or athletes or adults or whatever it may be do y'all kind of go through D1 daily, roughly? I know your schedule's a little
Yes.
bit different than what a normal.
Yeah. Yeah. So it goes up and down. During the summertime, easily 300 plus people coming through our facility. Right now, we have about 85 adults. Those are a lot of like former athlete type people. I'm actually at a point in my coaching life where I have people in my adult classes that were high school athletes for me at Holy Cross, which is honestly the best feeling in the world, right? Like,
I know.
they're
I
now
mean,
former athletes. They still come find Coach Lacoste,
yeah.
so it's awesome. And so we got 85 adults. I got about 60 rookies, which is our 7 to 11-year-olds. I have about 40 development athletes, which are junior high kids. And then we got, I don't know, probably 30 to 50 prep athletes, which is high school athletes, typically doing some kind of like personal training and stuff. So I'd say 250 to 300 total people coming through. Summertime, more like 400 to 500 people coming through.
Man, that's some massive numbers. And the
Yeah.
thing that impressed me the most, man, is those rookie ones you talk about. I mean, you're talking about 67 to 11-year-olds, man. That's everybody
Yep.
always gives this knock on when we were growing up. We're around the same age when we were growing up about stunt your growth, this and that.
Oh, God. Yeah. And I still get asked that question.
Yeah, and it's crazy that you do, because again, it's the people that we our age that having kids now. But
Yep.
I think it's great. Just like
Yeah.
you're a dad, your daughter does some lifting, my kids do some, and
Mhm.
it's all about doing it the right way.
Of course. Yeah. And I get that question all the time. And my answer typically is, it's way safer to teach a young kid how to do things with a barbell. And that's usually like a 15-pound barbell, right? The size of their school bag sometimes. But teaching them at a young age how to properly do things with a barbell is way safer than waiting till they're 15 years old. And now they have limitations because the way their body's grown, and like trying to reteach, it's almost like you can create good habits at a young age, or you wait later and you got to break bad habits. And it's a lot harder to break bad habits. So yeah, we got, age appropriate classes for every age from 7 on up.
Yeah, no, that's some good stuff, man. And I'm sure it helps these days, right? I mean, you were at Holy Cross, like we said, you're one of the first all sport strength coaches in the whole city of New Orleans. Some of that and how you approach training back then, because every athlete's different, right? Nobody's the same. Some of that help you today with D1 and working with all different walks of life people.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much different. Like when I was at Holy Cross, I was a one-man show.
Right.
Right. Right now, I'm blessed. I have 10 really good coaches under me. So I'm much more on the management side, running the business management, talking about the revenues and the marketing and the sales. So I'm much more on that side of it. So it's a lot different. I think that the biggest difference, when I was at Holy Cross, like I had these athletes 3 to 4 times a week, literally year round, super consistent, right? We had a great school schedule where the athletes would lift during their PE class, where I had 90 minutes with them during the school day. I don't know what your setup's like, but that was great to have that much time
Oh,
consistently with the athletes. And so I mean, when I look back at some of like my Facebook memories and the stuff that we were able to do in the weight room, come like around the end of July when the football team was like really peaking, it was unbelievable. In a private setting, you're not usually going to have that type of consistency over like a length of time, because they come to you for 3 or 4 months and they go to their season, and then you hope they come back. And so your approach has to be a little bit different. We can't get, I would say we can't get as in depth with some of the Olympic lift that like I used to do.
yeah.
You got to find other variations, other stimulus to, try to get that same stimulus, but it's not going to probably be with a clean and jerk because we're never going to get to that point, So yeah, it's a different approach, and it's all about just, and more than anything, it's about trying to find the individual goals of every athlete that comes in there and doing our best to fit the needs of their individual goals, because every one of them is different. Some come to us with speed work, some are strength. Some don't know why they come to us. They just know they need to get better,
And
and
just
so
mom and dad sign them up and let's get it.
yeah. So, I think it's more in the team setting, of course, at Holy Cross is much more what are the goals of our team and our program.
Right.
In the private setting, it's much more what's the goals of each individual athlete that comes through.
No, it makes 100% sense, man. You got to modify some stuff sometimes when those kids are those young adults or whatever it is, the first time trying to just to lift, maybe even, you kind of got to modify what they can and can't do. And maybe you're taking them through more GPP than other areas, or maybe they're, sticking with just the isometrics before they actually
Yep.
move on to something more in depth. But that's great, man. And again, I love the youth athlete, man. That's what a lot of people miss out on, is they miss out on those formative years of getting them in there when they're that age. And just weight room etiquette is kind of what I call it, understanding that this is what a rack is. This is what a bar is, these are weights, these are clamps, little stuff like that. I think a lot of guys and gals take for granted, man. Like, they don't necessarily take time to teach that.
Yeah. And that goes all the way back to my Holy Cross days where I loved working with the junior high kids. Holy Cross is pre-K through 12. At the time, we had 5th grade through 12th grade on our campus. In February of their 6th grade years when they started coming to me.
Yeah.
And so, by the time I was at Holy Cross for 5 years, by that 4th or 5th year, you're talking every one of these kids have been in my program for 4 years.
Yeah.
Little things that it used to almost be deflating for like the new kids that we would get, like the incoming freshmen that we would get, because they were so far behind. I had to find ways to really help that individual, that it's not their fault they're behind. They got here in 9th grade. Their buddies have been doing this for 2 years. They're so far ahead, and so yeah, I'm cool with that. I tell people that all the time. That is the age group, that 11 to 13-year-old age group. Man, don't miss on that group. You can just teach them so much so quickly at that age.
Yeah, man. We kind of have the same setup, is that, we'll start as young as 6th grade coming in. We're full time when they get to 8th grade, but as young as 6th grade, in our feeder schools in town, they'll come work out with us over the summer. So we have some kids that work out 7 years straight with us, and it's great,
That's
man.
awesome.
Like, that's 5th grade
Yeah.
going into 6th. And what I love about that is I can take those comparisons of their height, their weight, what they lifted as 6th graders, and when they become seniors, and I hand it to them when they're beginning their senior season, whatever sport. That's the paycheck, man. That's where it's like,
Yep.
I kept this data for the past 7 years and watched you progress. And this is what your average progression was per year. This is what your average over 4 years, just whatever it may be. And I love that's some of the best parts of my job, is just creating those little Excel files that, like, this kid went from 4.62 or whatever, whatever it is.
Mhm.
Just seeing some of that.
Yep. It's and it doesn't matter how good of a football player that kid was in a lot of ways. Like, a lot of times I see a different kid from the time they're a freshman or senior, and a lot of it is just their confidence, their demeanor, the way they carry themselves, and just knowing that this is going to carry on for the rest of their lives, what they've learned with us,
Yeah, no, you're building them holistically, right? I mean, that's kind of what
Mhm.
it's not just about the weight room. It's not just about, the classroom. Sometimes it's everything in life, every walk of life
Yep.
that you can experience. So, you got a daughter, right? Pretty high profile dancer from what I see, man, on
She is right there.
social
Got a
media.
giant.
Yeah, man, she's pretty, she gets after it, man. Y'all go all different places, and she looks like she not only enjoys it, but man, she's pretty dang good at it too. Tell us a little bit about being a dance dad.
So my wife was a sensation, a tumbling instructor. So my daughter's kind of a little prodigy. But I think some of the things I think about in the development of my daughter is stuff that I've said for literally my entire coaching career. And I think I got this actually from Coach Gail Hatch back in the day. But my daughter, she entered the dance studio at a super young age where it was just fun.
Yeah.
It was fun. And because it was fun, she liked it. Around age 5, I'm watching her at her dance recital, and I'm like, man, this kid loves this, and she was begging us to do competition dance. And so at that point, I told my wife, let's do this. Like, she clearly loves this, And I think now we're at a point where she's 9 years old and she is extremely passionate about it. and she's excelling at it because she's passionate about it, and she's developed that way. And so we get a lot of questions about how much do we really push her and stuff. And we don't really have to push her much because she
Right.
just loves it. I mean, she's at the dance studio all day, every day. She comes home immediately. She's turning Alexa on, turning on turning on a song. Dad, watch this. She's got this and that she's practicing with, and so, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's just great to see, your kid be finding what her passion is at a very young age and knowing that this is something that she really wants to do. And from there, I mean, we only have one kid, so we're spending all of our time and money on, helping her achieve whatever it is that she might achieve. But it's a heck of a journey. It's fun to watch.
So, and you get to see, not only that, your own child performing at her elite level, but you get to work with elite athletes. You have some professional athletes that go through there. Is there any, whether you want to call it a comparison of like them finding that purity and love of when they started playing the game or the sport that they play and what she does now, still at a age where it's still fun and still, she constantly loves it. Do you see some comparison there from time to time?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the thing that what I love seeing her do is just her attention to detail
Right.
and her discipline are the two things. When I'm with some of my NFL athletes and we're doing different types of position work, their understanding of the game, their attention to detail is unbelievable. Like these guys have PhDs in football. But like my daughter, I think I see again that attention to detail, that discipline that I know no matter where this whole dance thing goes, like it's gonna pay off later in life and whatever she does. And so like things I think about is like when she's able to come to the facility with us and we get her doing, an A series, an A skip, an A march, an A run, all of that type of stuff, pogo jumps, whatever it is, we show her how to do it one time, she does it to perfection. And it's like it's just this body awareness, it's her attention to detail because of that's what the dance world is. It is so super technical of how their toes point, knees straighten, this, that. And so, man, when we're in just like a gym setting and we're giving her speed improvement drills, wall series, like she does it to perfection. And I think
Right.
it's her eye discipline and her attention to detail that's really pretty remarkable and cool to watch, and I know it's going to pay off later in life no matter what she does.
Yeah, man, it's going to take her so much farther than what she even realizes, I think, right now.
Mhm.
I'm sure that, building that now in the professional world when she gets there is going to be pay dividends,
Yep.
So
Yep.
look, tell us, I talked briefly and we kind of talked a little bit about the NFL players, but what's something that you see in NFL players now that's a very common trend to kind of produce longevity in their careers,
Mhm.
the healthy lifestyles, the way they treat their bodies, what they put into their bodies, what they don't put into their bodies, their amount of sleep, just anything that produces kind of that longevity.
Yeah. So I would say I've been around a lot of professional football players mostly since 2018. So I got 7 years of being very close to these guys. And I've seen some good and some bad, right? I mean, the biggest thing about NFL guys is like you get some guys that are really good about communicating and working and things like that. And you got some that will text you on Friday and say, "Oh, I forgot to tell you I'm out of town." Right.
Right.
And so that's kind of the misconception at times is like everybody wants to train the NFL guys. I've had some that can be frustrating to work with,
Yeah.
but the guys that I think of that are playing long, healthy careers, and I would say exceeding expectations in a lot of ways. I think some of the stuff they have in common, the first thing I think of is just they are super humble, like down to earth, humble guys that in the best way to say is they're living right. I mean, I
Yeah.
think of guys like Zach Bond, again, I work for Josh Hill. He's the owner of our facility. Thomas Morstead. I've seen Demario Davis up close. He spent the whole offseason at my facility. And these guys are just regular dudes. I mean, they would sit here and talk to us just like this. They pull up in average vehicles. Zach was driving a Honda Accord when he pulled up last offseason.
I think I
Like,
saw an article or something about that, man.
yeah, Honda Accord. Married they're married with kids, super humble, just really good, genuine people would be number one. I think the next thing I think of, and I tell every high school athlete this for a long time, I'm glad these professional athletes are proving me correct. They are always early. The ones that are playing for a long time, they are always early. I think about like Zach and Thomas Morstead are the two that really stood out to me. If Thomas, I never trained Thomas, but he worked out at one of my facilities. Thomas would love to let me know that he was coming in at 10 a.m. and the next day he'd be there at 9 a.m.
Right.
Like that was just how he was tuned up. Zach, his first workout, I'll never forget. One of my assistant coaches calls me and said, "Hey, Zach Bond's here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we start like in an hour." And so I was like, hey, just go make sure he knows we're starting later. And Zach was fine. And I learned that that's what, if we said we were starting at 10 a.m., Zach was going to be there at 9:15, going through his little mobility routine and all of his preparation. And so those dudes are always early, and that's why I try to tell every one of those high school kids when I'm around them, like, don't be on time, be early. Like, it's
Right.
going to pay off.
Creature of habit.
And so yeah, and so I think about, as from a personality standpoint, those are the things I think of. From a physical standpoint, I think one thing that's eye-opening, they all pull way better than they push. And I would say the only position group that doesn't really apply to would be like the interior O lineman.
Right.
But everything outside of the guards and D tackles, every one of them, they can rip stuff off the ground. They can row like you wouldn't believe. They can chin up like you wouldn't believe. The ones that still catch cleans, you wouldn't believe how much weight they could clean just because of, again, how they just rip stuff off the ground. And so, I watched Carl Granderson, his first day training with me. He tells me, man, I haven't done a clean since college, but he saw some other guys doing it. All right. He was in college in 2017. All right.
Yeah.
I'm talking, he ain't cleaned 7 years, but he gets fired up, and his first day with me, he triples 315 on a power clean.
Jeez.
And it's like, dude, you haven't cleaned since college, and it wasn't. And a lot of these guys, it's not because it's not because they're got great lifting technique. Like, he ain't cleaned since college, but these dudes can just rip stuff off the ground. And just, it's their length and just, how strong they are when pulling. So, on the contrary, you'd be surprised by some of these guys' bench press is very underwhelming.
Yeah.
You'd be really surprised. And a lot of that, again, just goes to their length. You're talking about some really long arms, and
it's a long way to go.
Because of that, yeah, they're not built to bench,
Yeah.
And so I think the average person would be surprised how some of these giants really don't bench a whole lot, but it just goes to their length and their ability to pull. And then I would say the last thing would be their mobility and their conditioning. When I think of two giants, Cornelius Lucas he's the tackle for the Cleveland Browns right now. Cornelius Lucas graduated high school in 2009 from Carr. He's still playing in the league,
which is crazy.
Right? Yeah, he's like 12, 13 years in.
Yeah,
it's insane.
35 years old, 30,
Yeah, exactly. So Cornelius is he's 6'8", 340. He's an absolute giant. Longest wingspan in the NFL. You can Google it. Picture 6'8", 340. He moves like a cat. When I like do PNF stretching with him, he can put his foot like my daughter can. Like, his foot goes beyond his head. His conditioning is outrageous. Like, he loves to do. I think he knows it pisses me off. We get done a workout and he's like, "Hey, what's next?" And I'm like, "Nothing." Like, you just did 400 yards of prolly push. Right. Nothing's next, but he still does it to me. And so him and Carl Granderson's the same way. Carl's all of 285, and his conditioning is world class. He moves so smoothly, and it's amazing watching these guys. But yeah, it's mobility and conditioning is what these guys do. Just, you wouldn't believe it how these giants can move, and how great their conditioning is.
Right, it just takes them above and beyond, man, and it's just that's why they're able to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of this, the normal person doesn't understand freak in a good way, the freakish athletes that make it to the NFL.
Yep.
It's not just your run of the mill and never shoot down a kid's dream, but getting to college period is a task in itself, man. That's why they say you're a 2%er, because you're literally a 2%er, and it's not even that anymore. It's not even that high.
Yeah, the things you completely can't control is the length of these guys. And that's what really always surprises me. Like, even like Demario Davis, I've been up close with Demario a lot, and he's really not as thick as you would think, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But every time I walk up to him, dude, he's just taller than I expected and just longer. Like, I don't know, his limbs, his neck, like he's just long, and that's how a bunch of them are, and we can't make them longer,
Yeah.
So we can get you stronger and faster, but the length of these guys is incredible.
And a lot of these NFL guys, no one's naive, and everyone knows, NFL teams have strength coaches, but a lot of these guys during their off season, they kind of do their own thing. You talked a little bit about not cleaning as much anymore. A lot of these NFL guys, especially the older they get, kind of that not as much stressor on the wrist and on the upper body in that catch position. But a lot of teams I see now, and a lot of players, are going to more just of a high pull or a clean pull rather than the full, triple extension into the catch. Is that something that you try and do a lot with them, or is that, they come in and they say, "This is how I want to do it"?
Yeah. And so, honestly, every athlete that comes to our facility, and I'm not just talking about pros, I'm talking about every athlete that comes to our facility, we're going to start talking about some expectations and what your goals are, right? And so
Right.
with those type of guys, that's exactly what I'm trying to feel out. Like, what kind of weight room guy are you? You know, all these guys are freakish, but they could all get a little bit stronger, you know? And so how are we going to get them stronger? And there's a million ways we can get them stronger. We got to figure out the best way to build a program that's going to fit their desires more than anything, you know? And so, I mean, for me, I still use with just about every athlete, with the pro guys I'm talking about, I use the derivatives of the Olympic lifts in some form or fashion. Like, we're going to split jerk, but it ain't going to be, like the traditional split jerk. It might be with a landmine or a dumbbell. Same with some of the snatches. We still clean. I mean, I still percentage all their cleans, and we still clean just like a regular program. Whether or not they want to really catch it is really up to them. A lot of it goes to like that first time we try to catch it. I'm like, all right. If it's too ugly, it's just definitely not worth trying to get one of these guys hurt, you know? And
Right.
so, but believe it or not, more of them clean. The guys that come through my place, more of them actually catch the clean than don't catch the clean. And really, I think a lot of it goes back to their college experience. You know, like Zach Bond, he loved the clean because he had a great college experience at Wisconsin where they call clean. Same with Rod Teamer is a guy that Rod has to clean twice a week. If he doesn't clean twice a week, he's mad at me. So, and that goes to when he was at Tulane under Kyle Spear. He loved training under Kyle Spear, and they cleaned and they deadlifted and they were somewhat old school, and so that's how he wants to train. That's what he believes in.
Yeah,
And a
stuff
lot of
gets kind
times
of
it's just
ingrained in them, I
communicating.
imagine.
Yeah, it's just communicating with the athlete, just like any other athlete. It's about communicating with them and figuring out what's gonna motivate them the most and have them feeling right when they leave the place.
So is that kind of part of your first week, trust building process is, getting with them, creating a plan, how are we going to do this?
Mhm.
This is how we're going to achieve our goal. And then from there, they're kind of just hooked, I'd imagine.
Yeah, because I mean that's the toughest part about training, really in the private sector in general, but especially with those pro athletes, they usually paying weekly, and so guess what? After that first week, if they don't like it, they could just disappear, you know.
Right.
And so yeah, that first week, it's really about communicating and talking to them like, hey, look, I try to get them there, at least 20 minutes early, and before we start the workout, I show them what we're doing, and I'm like, what you think? Is there anything on here that just makes you completely uncomfortable? Like, all you gotta do is talk to me, And so, that's where I think, yeah, that's where the relationship and the trust builds is just, of course, there are times where I got to be like, hey, no, we are doing this, and here's why we're doing it because you need this. So there's always that balance too. But yeah, I mean, I try to do my best to communicate with them and give them the opportunity at least to let me know if there's something they don't like, and then we have the conversation about why we should or shouldn't do it or what we're going to do instead.
And that, I mean, I'm sure that just keeps them coming back and spreading the word. And that's why you get to train and be around and have that repertoire you have down there, man.
Yeah, I mean, the pro athletes that we have is truly just word of mouth.
Right.
Rod Teamer was my first guy back in 2018 who's actually trained with me as a Brother Martin kid when I was coaching at Brother Martin. He was a freshman at Brother Martin, right? He started with me in 2018. He told somebody about me who told this one, who told that one. And I mean, it just kind of spiraled. And so, yeah, it's relationships and reputation more than anything.
Right. And you build up, I don't even want to, I mean, you call it clientele, I guess, in the business, but the clientele that turns into relationships that these guys are, putting their careers basically in your hands for all sense of the word.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yes. And, some of these guys now, I think, so like Albert Huggins, he was with the Saints for a couple of years. He was with the Falcons. Albert's trained with me for 3 or 4 years now. I mean, I've spent more time with Albert than anybody. So Albert, he's 28, 29 years old. I mean, Albert's like one of my best friends now, because we've built that type of relationship where, he trusts me with really anything, and likewise to him. I mean, I've brought him with my family to Tulane football games and stuff, and so,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, it's just, getting to know those guys. Those guys are a lot more normal than what you would think in a lot of ways.
Yeah. That's awesome to hear, man. Sure that kid growing up in Chalmette going to Holy Cross never would have pinched himself now, kind of thinking back on it.
Well, I mean, I think about like some of these I mean, honestly, the craziest ones, like my daughter, she'll come in there. I mean, last summer, my daughter, Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave were warming up. My daughter was between them,
Yeah.
warming up with them with absolutely no sense of like who these dudes even are, And I'm just sitting there like, man, what I would have done to be warming up with a couple Saints receivers like this, like what?
Isn't
So,
it so great to see just, I guess, that innocent mind,
yeah,
of the kids. It's just like, you're experiencing something in life that not everybody gets to experience, and you're just
Mhm.
to you it's another day, you know.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, even so, like Albert's he's not signed with anybody right now. So Albert had a great career already. He's a 7-year vet, but Albert's actually coaching for us right now at D1. And
Okay.
so, I mean, I'll watch him work with some of these 12, 13, 14-year-old D linemen. Like, man, imagine if I had a freaking NFL football player training me when I was 13 years old.
Yeah,
I mean,
you
that's
can,
the type of opportunity that I've been able to give some of these kids, which, it's been really cool.
it's kind of where it all started for you, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
never letting a kid kind of experience what you experienced and letting
Mhm.
it go by. So if you could give yourself, talking about that guy, whether it's, when you're having to run the 40 the first time at LSU, when you're at Northwestern State, if you could give yourself one piece of advice that helps you now, that would help you now in the strength and conditioning world, what would that advice be?
Yeah, I mean, if I look back on high school, I didn't know much of anything at the time. Strength and conditioning wasn't a real thing at that time, certainly in the high school setting. So we cared way more about bench press than anything, right? And
We,
so,
hey, if you're a 15, 18-year-old
yeah,
young man, it's bench press
yeah,
Fridays and it's sun's out,
right.
guns out, right?
And so I wish I would have been more exposed to all the Olympic lifts. I wish I would have learned them at
Hmm.
an earlier age. All we really did at that time in high school was some bad hang cleans,
Yeah.
And so I wish I would have been more exposed to the Olympic lifts at a younger age. And then I wish, for the reasons I just mentioned, I wish I would have been more focused on mobility and flexibility and things like that, And so I could have moved even better. I think that could have been the difference between that 4.6 and 4.5 if I just had, looser hip flexors and things like that. And so yeah, I mean, I think that's some of the stuff that I wish I would have been exposed to at a younger age. I tell you, when I was in 2011, I mentioned I worked for Jason DeMello for 3 months at $9 an hour. Part of what I worked with was St. Paul's football team. 2011, the St. Paul's football team, they went 10-0. If you would have seen the amount of weight these kids could sling, I'm talking. I watched multiple kids clean over 315. I watched a kid clean 365. These were monsters, and it was all just a culture of Kurt Hester started training like the Mandeville and St. Paul's football teams back in like the late 90s, and you just saw what a decade of like real strength and conditioning
Right.
culture could do, And so, man, I just in 2011, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I graduated high school in 2006. This isn't long after I graduated high school. Thinking to myself, man, if I would have had this type of strength and conditioning, man, that's
Where could
just
things have
jealous,
gone? Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's, you said something about bad hang cleans and, we weren't really taught it, there's an age group of guys out there that were just told, all right, here's 135 pounds on the bar, go pick it up,
yeah,
and that's kind of what it was for a lot of us, the kids, everybody says that teaching the clean or teaching the snatch is so hard to teach. And man, you can do it with a PVC pipe in a day, like it
yeah,
doesn't, you can get your basic movement down. Are you going to be an Olympic lifter the next day? No, but a lot of these kids, we're training them to be athletes. We're not training them to be
yeah.
Olympic lifters. That's a
Mhm.
totally different realm of stuff. But, we are in such a blessed spot, I guess you could say, that we're able to provide that to them that a lot of what we didn't get, kind of why you got into this, a lot of what we didn't get, and break it down for them and just have that lift continue to be such a great lift.
Yeah, I've never understood the statement of like the Olympic lifts are too hard to coach. I've never understood that. Now,
It's
where I
crazy.
would agree with is like if you don't have a strength and conditioning coach on staff and you don't have somebody that can teach a clean, maybe you should find something else to do.
Yeah,
Right? And there is other stuff you can do, but a real strength coach should be able to coach the clean, the snatch, the jerk, or at least get really good at one of them, And I mean, Matt Bruce used to say you could do it in a day. I don't know if I could do it in a day, but I could do it pretty quickly,
yeah,
And as long as you're consistent over time and those kids are locked in, and you making sure you're kind of just fueling that fire, I think I don't know. I've never understood the
me
power
neither.
clean's too tough to teach. I've
Yeah,
never gotten that.
M-
So
Matt's a wizard with some of that, man. Like I know he says you could do it in a day too, but I usually break it down
yeah, I
over
don't
a
know
little
about
bit
that.
longer
Yeah.
than a day. He's a
Yeah.
he's a freaking wizard though. But
Yep.
when it comes to training, we all know it's mental and physical. Is there something that you use like that might not be the norm or something that's non-traditional that kind of helps an athlete break a plateau?
So, I think that there's a lot of goals that you can set with an athlete. And so I think that, if there's one thing that sometimes, especially in that team training setting, we struggle with is like everybody's got the exact same goal, right? Everybody's going to max out on clean, bench, squat. Everybody's going to run a 40 and a vert, right? And so you end up with like this, uniformity of like maybe 5 tests. And so I think that at times it can be tough where a kid has a bad week, maybe has a bad couple weeks, and all he's evaluating his entire progressions off of is maybe those 3, 4, 5 tests, And so I think where we could try to really help a kid overcome those plateaus sometimes. Sometimes it's just they need like a deload week, right? I mean, if they're
Yeah.
struggling with cleans, they some of the best advice I've had with kids that that had struggled with plateaus, like, hey, next week, don't do anything. Like
Yeah.
Mardi Gras break's coming up, just don't do anything during Mardi Gras break. You'll come back better, right? And so sometimes it's that simple. Sometimes I think it's as simple as let's base our thought process and our goal setting on something different, right? Maybe it's something that's, there's a lot of technology out there now. Maybe it's, hey, your vertical jump struggling. Instead of that, let's get to the force decks that we have at our gym. And let's focus on your, your responses, like how quickly getting off the ground, how efficiently you're absorbing, force coming back into the ground. Like, let's set some new goals here,
Yeah.
And, I think sometimes the best way to break through through a clean plateau is think about everything else that strikes up the central nervous system that maybe we could get better at, and kind of trust the process of like, hey, let's come back to these cleans a month or two from now,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's some of the different thoughts I've had just over the years is just, we sometimes we get too caught up in just a uniform set of tests. Like there's so many different ways that we can set goals, program, and get those kids just mentally motivated again.
Yeah. That's something that in Coach Hester's book that he kind of mentioned in the beginning is just all the people he thanked, and they're from all different, I guess, realms of this profession, whether it's bodybuilding, powerlifting, Olympic lifting, football strength coaches, soccer strength, everything. And one of them was Louis Simmons. Something that's always stuck with me about Louis Simmons said is, he talks about the law of accommodation. When you do something for so long, you actually get worse at it. And it's kind of what you just said right there is that, sometimes you just got to get away from that high central nervous system lift in the clean and come back to it in a month or two. And shoot, you might be
Yep.
better. That's why the way I've learned over the years with my own program that, we'll squat and bench max before we take our break in July. And then we'll come back and clean max when we get back. And the numbers are actually better because they
Yeah.
have that 11 days off where they're getting away from catching that clean, and they've already done their bench and squat. They come back and it's just like they're totally different kids because we do clean enough that it's just so ingrained in them, like you said,
Mhm.
so ingrained that, it's just like riding a bike again. They're going to
Yep.
get up there, they're going to catch the bar, they're going to have great triple extension. They'll catch it almost flawlessly, right? Even though they've had 11 days off. And there's a little bit of worry there. It's like, we just took all this. Everybody always wants to say, you got to be working, got to be working, got to be working. Sometimes less is more.
Yep, no doubt. Completely agree. I love that. I've never tried that, but that is, if I ever get a chance to, that's a pretty cool way of going about it
Yeah, it's
with your
just,
max days and all.
yeah, it's something that, I don't know, man, might not work for other people's kids. It's just the way our kids are wired. I guess we clean enough that they can come back and do it.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome.
what's something, we talked about a ton of stuff, man. You have such a great story. Is there something, whether it's a conversation or a quote you might have heard from a coach or anything like that, that's just had a huge impact? It might not have to do with sport at all, but just had a huge impact on your performance as in the professional world or as an athlete?
Mine just went in a bunch of different directions, honestly.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think as an athlete, high school, I was a Hurricane Katrina victim, like I already
Right.
mentioned once. So my high school experience was almost traumatic in a lot of ways. And so I think about when I was a freshman in high school, Coach Barry Wilson, our head football coach, he came in. It was his first year there. His quote from day one was, "Tough times don't last, tough people do." It was on every shirt at the time. Didn't really mean a whole lot to me. I don't even know if I read it. I definitely read it, but I don't know if I knew what it meant. So Hurricane Katrina hits my senior year. We lose everything. Lose my house, lose our school, lose everything. And that quote meant a little bit more all of a sudden.
Oh,
We
yeah.
were going through some really tough times and really tough times. And so I think about that. I played my senior year of football. I played at St. Mary's in Natchitoches. That's how I ended up at Northwestern, actually, because of Hurricane Katrina. And so I remember sitting there. Coach Eric Held was our head football coach at St. Mary's, and we were trying to keep it real lighthearted in a lot of ways. But me and my buddy that was with me from Chalmette, I remember we would jokingly say things like, "Good news is we don't have to. They can't give us homework. We don't have a home." And so stupid
Jeez,
stuff like
coach.
that. But I remember Eric Held told me, said, "Hey, on a serious note, you're gonna be a way better person, a way stronger person because of all this that you're going through, right?" And I remember him telling me that like it was yesterday, and he was right. Like
Yeah.
I think that, we went through some tough times, but all of us tougher people became way better people because of it. I think that when things that would maybe rattle a normal person come up, like I don't get rattled. I literally sit there and think things would be a lot worse. I've been homeless,
Yep.
I mean, and so I think about that in a lot of ways when it comes to like, different quotes. And then I would say the other quote that I always lean on really heavily, I was told this quote, and this is more towards like the coaching profession. A leader told me, impact over effort. And so impact over effort, meaning your effort is without impact, effort is just effort, right? Anything you do, make sure you're making an impact, right? And so at the end of the day, people really don't care about your effort. I kind of mentioned this already once, but people really don't care about your effort. They only care about the impact you're making. They might say things such as, hey, thank you for your hard work, thank you for your effort, but they really only come to you and say that type of stuff after you've made a positive
Right.
impact on that person or on that kid, right? And so anything you do, impact over effort. Make sure we're making an impact. I make sure all my coaches know that. Anytime I talk to young coaches, I'll make sure they know that we're in a profession of impact, not effort. Nobody's ever going to applaud you for working a 12-hour day. They're going to applaud you for making a positive impact.
Yeah. That's, the first one, man, the tough times don't last. Tough people do. Our strength coach in college used to say it all the time. And as a 18-year-old kid, you're just like, well, yeah, duh. But as an adult, man, I use it all the time with my kids because it's the
Mm,
truth, man. It is the truth that no matter how tough it gets, if you're just a tough person, you're going to make it through that. It could be
Yep.
the worst of the worst situation and you'll make it through it as long as you're just a tough person. It's
Yep.
funny you
Keep
mentioned
moving
Eric,
forward.
man. Eric texted me today wishing us good luck, man.
Oh yeah.
Eric's a real good friend of ours, man, a friend
Yeah.
of the family.
That's
He's
a
a
special person there.
great
You
human
ask him,
being.
bring him on just for trivia.
I know,
He knows everything.
coach.
He knows everything.
I can't keep up with him in the what he does. It's just yeah, man. Eric's a great. I was so happy for him when he got the spot at LSU. Man, that's a phenomenal human to do that, and it's crazy. I didn't realize that you ended up at St. Mary's, man, while he was there. Two guys from the
Yep.
city ended up there. 'Cause he's a Brother Martin grad, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Yeah, Brother Martin guy, and that's how I ended up at St. Mary's. Was our coaches at the time said, "Hey, I don't know what to do." Nobody knew what to do, but it was already week one of my senior year, so we got to go
Yeah,
play football somewhere.
right.
And so, hey, there's this guy in Natchitoches. If y'all want to go check in with him, so that's what we did. We drove I was in Nashville, drove to Natchitoches, got to Natchitoches on Sunday of week two, and practiced on Labor Day the next day, and played for St.
Played
Mary's
for
that
St.
week. I came back to Holy Cross in the springtime, played baseball at Holy Cross, graduated from Holy Cross. But
Such a
yeah, it
crazy
was a heck of
time,
a
man.
journey.
Yeah, and
Heck
I
of a
was
journey.
I was living in Denham when Katrina happened, and I just remember getting the huge influx of kids overnight, man. And it was just like, holy crap, man! Like this is insane. I couldn't imagine. I played with a few guys you probably played against at when I was at Monticello, man. Scotty Buson from Rummel High
Yeah, I know the
played
name.
played with us up there, and I know he was around the time of when Katrina happened, and man, just got spread out everywhere, and y'all just to make it through it, man, and where you're at now, and love of the city, you're back and spreading
Hmm.
what you can with those young men and women down there, man.
But yeah,
So
yep, it's been a heck of a ride.
we talked about a ton of training, um, and we always know, it's ever changing, right? Training's just not it's not what it used to be, right? I mean, we talked about the youth movement or when dads and moms and all that, it's going to stunt your growth. We kind of touched on a little bit of that, but what's something in strength training today, especially in your world? Because again, you touch, every aspect of an athlete from 7 years old to the, 12-year NFL vet. You get to see every bit of it, their beginning to the pinnacle. Is there something that's both overhyped and something that's, kind of here to stay in strength and conditioning?
Some things that I think about is like, I don't even know. It's hard to say what's overhyped or gonna disappear tomorrow, but things I think about is like the box squat. The box squat in high school and college was great,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden it was like taboo, like it was terrible, and then all of a sudden kind of feels like it's back again, and
Hmm.
especially with velocity-based training, there's a lot more hex bar deadlifts and box squats that are coming back in. But like it feels like 10 years ago they were being bashed, like they
Yeah.
were, trap bar deadlift wasn't, enough range of motion, and box squats weren't great. You should be squatting full day. And so, and so like I just think about so much of this stuff as being so cyclical now as I look back over my, 15-year coaching career that it's like, and we got to just like trust our eyes. and believe in what we believe in. It certainly, we always want to learn more, but just because the box squat was bad doesn't mean it was bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I think about that type of stuff. I think about wickets right now. Wickets is like, it just pops on social media, I think, when people run wickets. But like, dude, we were doing, Kurt Hester had a stride checker that we used to use with Jason back in, again, 15, 20 years ago, where it was wickets. Like, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Kurt was doing wickets 20 years ago, and I was running through a stride checker with Jason 15 years ago. And so right now, wickets is like all of a sudden this new thing that just pops on social media. But like, it's not new. It's the social media area where it just looks cool, so people think it's new all of a sudden. It's the first time they've seen it on social media. But I think of Wickets as being something that I wouldn't say overhyped by any means, but it's not
It's
new.
not
You know what I
not a
mean? It's
new
been around
thing,
forever.
right?
Yeah. I think of that. I think of I think so. All the technology, of course, the velocity based training. We at D1 we have force decks, evolved force decks that are really cool. Gives you all kinds of information. I think the velocity based training is great. I don't want to, I don't want to, I don't want to say it's overhyped because it is some really good information. But I was speaking with one of the Pelicans strength coaches, and I think the velocity based training can be overused, if anything. I don't know if I want to use the term overhyped, but overused.
No, I can see that. You almost beat a dead
Yeah,
horse with it at times because it's like,
yeah,
all right, what are we really getting out of this now? Because really you're honing in on your percentages, but in reality, when you overuse it, is it kind of taking you off the ultimate goal?
yeah. And so a lot of times, and he mentioned, and I agreed with him, like, we're watching this screen or we're watching these numbers, and we're not watching the movement anymore.
Right.
And so I think it's just, I think it's something that looks really cool on social media, so everybody wants to do it. And I think there is a lot of merit. It's great. Like, we're moving weight fast. It's power based, great. But there's a time and place for it, right? And so I think just I don't know if I want to use the word overhyped by any means, but it could certainly be overused.
But it's got to be more special and more meaningful than just we're going to go in there every day and we're going to hook up the VBT and let's see if we
Yep.
can, be more. I like using the word intent, man. Doing stuff with intent. It's
Yep.
do it with intent, not just up there to do it to see your number pop up.
Yep. I think so. The most fun thing we have right now, we have a radar gun for
Oh,
med ball
really?
throws. It's so much fun. It just adds to it. Like, just
That
if you got a
breeds
radar
such
gun on you.
competition too, man. I would,
Oh,
just like anything
yeah.
else,
So it ought
whether
to.
you have a jump mat, whether you have, timing
Yep.
gates or GPA, whatever you
Yep.
have, but it's got to breed competition.
Yep. Yeah. So we have with our baseball, softball players right now. Seth Johnson, he oversees all of our baseball training. He's our head coach. Haley Mayer, she's our softball guru. So they have a throw of the week every week, and it's up on the board who throws it the hardest from this position and stuff, And so,
That's awesome.
so yeah, it's awesome. Really drives intent and engagement. And the same with the jump mat. Like, I always bust out the jump mat. I think the jump mat is the best $600 investment you can make, because if you put a kid on a jump mat, they're gonna jump higher. They're
Yep.
literally gonna jump. They're gonna say, "What was that?" And they're gonna do,
It is amazing when you put a kid on a device like a jump mat or whatever you
Mhm.
use to jump with out there. It's amazing how much effort they'll put into it when you pull something
Mhm.
like that out. But you got to make it special. You can't use it every day, because if you use it every day, it just kind of
Yeah.
gets to the point where we're like, here we go, we're jumping again. But when you start getting them competing, especially if you have multiple of them where they can kind of go back and forth, that is some of my funnest days.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt. Anything to drive just their intent and effort, like you said, makes it so much more fun.
Absolutely, man. So, look, I got a few off the wall questions for you before we get out of here,
All
man.
right.
I
Can't
love
wait.
kind of the off the wall ones, and you can call them off the wall, but it's just some of us get to know you a little bit better. So, as an athlete, when you were coming up through college, if everybody had their rituals, if you had to watch a movie pregame, whether that's the night before or right before the game, to kind of get you in that mindset, what's the movie that you're turning on?
Michael Jordan's Playground.
Really?
Have you seen that before?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I played basketball. People that know me really well
Mhm.
actually view me as a basketball player more than anything.
Right.
And so I love basketball growing up. And so I used to watch Michael Jordan's Playground before just about certainly before every basketball
No
game. I even
kidding.
remember turning it on as like a high school and college kid just to like
Mhm.
relive it again. Like,
Kinda get back
it
in
was
that,
always
yeah.
highlights. Man, it was such a cool, it was the story of it is like dumb, but like all his highlights and the way he talks about it. And it wasn't always pretty. Like, I failed here and I failed there, but I overcame it. Like, yeah, Michael Jordan's Playground.
Yeah. That's all. I didn't expect that answer, man. I expected something
Yeah,
like
that's
Gladiator or, something like that, Remember the Titans, something that kind of got you going, because that was those movies came out as we were growing up. Yeah, I definitely expected that. All right.
Yeah, I've never been a big movie buff. Like I don't know, it's not. Yeah, I wouldn't have. But yeah,
We don't have
Michael Jordan's
time these
Playground. That was
days,
it.
I can imagine you don't have as much time to kind of sit down and watch a movie,
If I do, it's
Never.
with my daughter. We're
Yeah.
watching Disney, if anything.
Yeah, Disney, man, I got a freaking Shark Tank addiction. If I have time to watch anything, I turn on Shark Tank, man. I don't know why.
So I started watching Shark Tank when it first came out in 2011. I was teaching Brother Martin economics, didn't really know what I was doing. And so every Friday we watched Shark Tank. And I'm talking the original Shark Tank. It was on YouTube. And that was my Fridays in economics. I thought we all learned a lot from it. It was good.
Shark Tank and
very
Everything
engaging.
Boss were my like two shows, man. Like I just those are, if I got to turn something, it don't matter if I seen the episode and I know what's gonna happen. I love it, man. So okay, next one, kind of similar, right? If you had to give an athlete, let's just say it's an athlete going into college, and you had to give them a book that is good for their path in life or whatever path they're gonna choose in life to kind of motivate them and keep them motivated to stay with where their feet are at, stay where they're at and continue on that path. What's that book?
So, I mean, the only one that comes to mind right now is Traction.
Mm-hmm.
It is a very business related book, especially like somebody that's going into the strength and conditioning world like us that is going to lead a team, talk about, how roles fit, what goes into creating a role, what goes into hiring good people. And really just a very holistic viewpoint of like a business. And that's just because I would say that because no matter what you end up in, you're in a business. Like that's how society, that's our economy, right? Even if you're out of school, I think having a good idea of like that business sense, maybe what that leadership is looking down, thinking upon, the team that leadership is building, even if you're not the leader yet, but Traction is one that I read recently that was really cool. Really made me think about the last 5 to 10 years of like my coaching career and where things could have been better at times, some different stuff I would have done.
No, that's a good one, man. That's awesome, especially going into this profession if they can find something that's kind of they can latch on to and look back at, right? All right, so this is my last one. This has been my favorite one with all of our guests, man. All right, you're stranded on an island, okay? You're the only one there. There's one piece of weight equipment, whether that's something that you can use functionally for other reasons or if it's just to stay in shape. What's that piece of weight equipment going to be?
It would have to be. So, oh man, I'm struggling. What do we call these things? So I would have to go into somewhat into like a dumbbell, but just because I can use it for exercise, but I could probably break stuff with it and stuff too, right? But we have Sorenex came out with these things, and we don't use them a whole lot, but they're almost like a blend of a kettlebell and a dumbbell. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I've seen them. I've never used
Like you
them,
stick
but
your
I've
hand
seen them.
in it.
Yeah.
Stick your hand in it, it circles around. I'm drawing a blank on what we
got the
call
handle
it.
in there,
And,
yeah.
yeah. And so we don't really use it a whole lot. If I would want that because it literally fits around your fist. I could hit something with it. I could hit an
Break
animal
stuff,
with it. I could use it. Yeah. I could use it for
throw
whatever.
it.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
could still work out with it.
Yep. So I'm going with that. I already forgot the name of it.
Yeah,
that's how little we use them.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it. I know exactly what you're talking about, though. I just can't remember the name of them. You're the first person to say that one, man. I've had some different answers, man, from battle rope to trampoline.
Okay. Trampoline.
Yeah.
What you gonna do with a trampoline?
Well, it was more of if I'm gonna be deserted on an island, I'm gonna have fun.
Want to have a good time?
Yeah. I mean, which I was like, hey, I appreciate it. That's what this question's about, I've had mine personally was a trap bar because I thought in the workout sense and I can do so much with it. I can jump with it. I can press it. I can pull it. I can curl it. I can do tricep extension. I can do a bunch of stuff with it. That was mine, but
put it between a tree and dip.
Yep. Something, so a lot of different things, man. Coach, it's been awesome, man, to kind of have you on tonight and learn your story. And there's so much more to it than I think what people see, just kind of, the head guy at New Orleans West D1, there's so much more to what you've been through, where you're going, and kind of the reputation you've built for yourself in New Orleans.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Anytime.
Can you?
Anytime I get to want to talk with a strength coach, I love it.
Yeah,
I
man.
never pass up the opportunity.
It's always good to have the fellowship. Can you tell our listeners, man, they can find you on social media anywhere?
Yes. So let me make sure I say the handle correctly. So our business page on Instagram is at D1 West NOLA. So we're very active there on Instagram. My Instagram is at D1_Coach Lacoste. So I would say Instagram is where we're most active. I'm on Facebook. If you're a strength and conditioning coach, you add me as a friend. If your picture looks anything like a strength and conditioning coach, I'm going to accept you. I'm on Twitter. I've kind of gotten away from being super active on Twitter, but we do have a cool website. It's D1 Training / D1 West NOLA. Our website's really good. Our marketing and all is pretty first class. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I would say Instagram would be where I'm the most active. And so yeah, please give me a follow. And if you follow D1 West NOLA, again, very active. You see everything from 7-year-olds to adults to Saints players and everything in between. If you follow my personal, you're gonna see a lot of the same plus a lot of dancing. So if you got a daughter, come follow me on Instagram too.
Learn how to do it the right way,
dancing.
man. Learn how to do it the right way from one of the best. Well, Coach, again, thank you so much for being here, man, and we look forward to this episode coming out.
Yep, appreciate it.
That's a wrap on another episode of the Moffitt Method Podcast. We hope you found today's discussion enlightening and empowering as you continue your journey in sports and strength and conditioning. Before you go, make sure to follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, where we share more tips, behind-the-scenes content, and updates on upcoming episodes. Just search for Moffitt Method Podcast and hit that follow button. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite listening platform. That way, you'll never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd love it if you could leave us a review or share this podcast with a friend. It really helps us out. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, the key to success is just one more workout away. Until next time, stay strong and stay inspired.